If your summers are disjointed, it's the same as doing nothing. Okay, let's just start with that quote from a Stanford student. Wow. Talk about setting the stage, right? It's a pretty intense way to kick things off, but honestly, it perfectly captures the new reality, this immense pressure that has totally reshaped what summer even means for high schoolers today. So today, we're going to dive into this massive shift. We're talking about how the high school summer vacation went from being a time for, chilling out, maybe getting a random summer job, to being this high stakes strategic branding exercise. And it's all in service of one thing: the hyper competitive college application. All right, so first up, let's talk about the new summer rulebook. Because to really get what's happening now, you have to understand that the old idea of summer, the one you and I probably remember, yeah, that's been completely kicked to the curb. And here is the absolute heart of the matter. The whole idea of being well rounded, playing a little sports, doing some volunteering, maybe going to camp, that's over. That's not the game anymore. The new goal is specialization. It's all about crafting one single focused story about who you are and what you're passionate about. And you start building that story from the moment you set foot in high school. Okay, so what does this shift actually look like in practice? Let's break it down and put the old way right next to the new way so you can really see the difference. Yeah, this right here really paints the picture, doesn't it? The old model was all about breadth. It was like a buffet. You tried a little bit of everything to show you were well-rounded. And back then, great grades and high test scores, that was your golden ticket. But now, in the new model, those amazing grades and scores are just the baseline. They're the price of admission. The real differentiator is depth. It's about picking a lane, like AI and healthcare, and then spending every single summer adding another layer to that one story, proving you have a deep, specialized passion. So you're probably wondering, how on earth are these kids building such powerful, focused stories? Well, it is definitely not by accident. There's a formula, a playbook even, and we're going to walk right through it. And here is a perfect example of this strategy in the real world. Let's go back to Andra Campos, the student from that quote at the beginning. Just look at her summers: a medical internship, a research program at NYU, volunteering at a hospital. She even started a healthcare nonprofit. You see how none of this is random? It's not just a collection of stuff she did. Every single thing was chosen to build her very specific brand of biology meets computer science. Each summer just added another, more impressive layer to that one single story. And a lot of the time, there's this three-step formula that just works. It starts with something personal. For a student named Brian Zhu, it was his own diagnosis with type 1 diabetes. Okay, step 2, you connect that personal story to an academic passion. For him, that was AI and medical policy. And then the final piece of the puzzle, step 3, you frame it as your mission to solve a big societal problem, like his goal of making healthcare more equitable. It creates this really powerful, logical, and compelling story arc. But you've got to ask why. Why did this all happen? How did summer turn into this strategic battlefield for teenagers? Well, let's dig into the big forces that are driving this whole thing. Okay, driver number 1 is pretty straightforward. Academic achievement has basically become a commodity. Just so many students have nearly perfect grades and test scores now that those numbers just don't make you stand out anymore. So the competition had to move from inside the classroom to outside of it, forcing kids to find other ways to prove they're special. Then there's driver number 2. A whole industry has absolutely exploded around this. We're talking about private college counselors that can cost a fortune, and these hyper-competitive summer programs. Seriously, some of these summer programs are harder to get into than actual top-tier colleges. It's created this pay-to-play system that gives a massive advantage to families who can afford it, and of course, just raises the bar for everyone else. And finally, the third big driver, it's a total shift in mindset. The logic from the corporate world, from marketing and branding, has completely seeped into college admissions. We're now expecting a high schooler to have a clear, polished answer to a question we used to reserve for companies. What are you? What's your brand? And that pressure forces them to pick a lane early and stick with it. So, as you can probably guess, this whole professionalized approach to being a teenager, well, it comes at a cost, right? There are some real downsides to this high-pressure system that we need to talk about. The core issue actually has a name. It's called premature professionalization. And it's this kind of wild phenomenon where teenagers are taking on the stress, the behaviors, and the exact mindset of, say, a 40-year-old trying to climb the corporate ladder. They're basically being asked to skip the messy parts of being a teen and jump straight into a mid-career mentality. So, what does that even look like in the real world? Well, it looks like high schoolers meticulously curating their LinkedIn profiles. It looks like 17-year-olds publishing op eds on really complex topics and actively networking with university professors. But maybe the most important sign is what's being lost in all this: the unstructured, non strategic time for just genuine, messy self discovery. And this quote from Silas Touts, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The teen years are supposed to be a time for exploration. Traditionally, that's what adolescence was for: to try things, to fail, to figure out who you are. But this new model, it demands a polished, finished product by the time you're 18, and that leaves very little room for that essential process of just exploring. So, this whole conversation, it really boils down to one huge fundamental question about what education is even for. And that's what I want to leave you thinking about. If you strip away all the details about applications and summer programs, this is the real debate we're having. Has the very purpose of college shifted? Is it no longer the place you go to find yourself and discover your potential? Has it become a finish line that simply judges the polished product you were forced to become in high school? So, the final thought I'll leave you with is this: where do you stand on this? Whether you're a student, a parent, an educator, what's your take? Is this intense pressure for early specialization just a necessary evil in a super competitive world? Or should we be fighting to protect that space for unstructured, unstrategic exploration during the teenage years? There's no easy answer, but it's definitely a conversation we all need to be having.